Super Saturday is here in the World Cup. We've got 4 more games, and as you can see to the side of me there, they are cracking games indeed. We are going to start with the Netherlands against Sweden on this episode of the Prediction Show. Game of the day for me, no doubt about that. Sweden flying from the first game. They played so well that they got a manager sacked. And the Netherlands now under real pressure to perform. Germany strolled past Curacao and now they face Ivory Coast in a straight top of the Group E decider. Who is your money on in that game? Hard to look past the Germans. Ecuador against Curacao is the other game from that group. Both teams lost their first game. Narrow defeat for Ecuador, not so much for Curacao. So it is win or bust in this one. And finally, Tunisia, who were battered so hard that they sacked their manager after just 90 minutes of World Cup action. They face Japan. And as always on the Prediction Show, I'm going to do my best to find insights and patterns in the data to help me and you make predictions on these football games. I'm also going to be giving a scoreline prediction for every single game, and if you want to use any of the tools that I do in this video, feel free to click the link in the description and you can access them for free. And speaking of predictions, well done to this user. You have won a month of OddAlerts Pro. What a prediction this was. And the same applies to this video. Every video that we do during the World Cup, a month of OddAlerts Pro is available. All you have to do is comment, get your predictions in for all of these games that we are featuring today. So we are going to start with the Netherlands against Sweden, and the Netherlands will be looking to improve, no doubt about that, defensively anyway. They led twice against Japan, and now they face Sweden, who are in fine goal-scoring form. And for Sweden, interestingly, the 5 goals that they scored against Tunisia has already equaled their 2018 group stage total tally. So I think they could potentially approach this game with a bit of a free hit mentality. They've already got 3 points in the bag. They know Netherlands are under pressure. Can they score against this shaky at times looking Netherlands team and maybe get a point or more in this game? This happened the last time these two teams met in the World Cup. The Cruyff turn, absolutely iconic moment. And this is only the second World Cup meeting. This was in 1974, and this game finished 0-0. I hope, and I don't believe, we will see a 0-0 in this one. Now, a very interesting statistic as we look at goals scored for the Netherlands is that they are unbeaten in their last 13 World Cup games across 90 minutes, across normal time. That is the joint longest run in competition history. So fair play. 13 is a strange number, isn't it? Unlucky for some. Will that run continue against Sweden today? So we were looking at goals scored for the Netherlands. Let's just scroll down and see that they are scoring for fun at the moment across competitive games. They scored a bucket load of goals in qualifying, as you would expect them to. And as we scroll down, we can see that the last time they failed to score was against Germany. They score in the majority of their games, and this, incidentally, was 14th of October 2024. So they are on a great goal-scoring run. Will they score today? I think it's quite likely that both teams score in this one. And speaking of goals, anything you can do, we can do better, says Sweden, because they have scored 3 or more in the last 3 competitive games, including the 5 against Tunisia, where Isak and Gyökeres looked on fire, didn't they? They are going to have to be monitored closely by that Dutch defence, no doubt about that. But I think this is a really, really well set up game, because the Netherlands, the longer this game remains level, the Netherlands will have to go for this at some point. They will leave gaps, and I expect Gyökeres to investigate that space, especially the wing-backs. As they push on, Gyökeres will push in and try and receive long balls, as he does and as he did against Tunisia. As I just mentioned there, I do see BTTS looking quite appealing for me, given the frailties that the Netherlands showed at times against Japan. Now, checking out the World Cup hub, we are going to look at some team rankings, and we are going to look at BTTS across the last 10. Bosnia and Herzegovina 8 out of their last 10. Portugal 7, incidentally, they drew with Congo, didn't they, and conceded, of course. Switzerland 6, United States 6, Sweden 6 of their last 10. For the Netherlands, it is 5, so 50% of their last 10 games have ended with BTTS landing. Will that number improve now that they're playing better opponents in the World Cup? And I also just wanted to show you this as well. Goals conceded in the second half. Sweden, 10 in their last 10 games. Only worse are Tunisia and Czech Republic, and Sweden actually bumped this number up for Tunisia. Tunisia play today. We will cover that game as well, but that is interesting to note, I think, that Sweden are conceding goals late. Could the Netherlands score in the second half of this game? Well, we can actually check out that metric directly. Goals scored in the second half across the last 10, Norway in a league of their own, England with 20, Belgium 21, France also on 20, and then the Netherlands are there. 19 goals in the last 10 second halves played, 1.9 per game. It's pretty good. So with that said, this is what I'm on for this game, and my score prediction is coming up as well. BTTS and Netherlands to get a goal in the second half. And my score prediction for this one may surprise some of you. I'm going to go with another 2-2 draw for the Netherlands. More frustration and then some serious pressure in their final game. And what about you? What are your predictions for this one? Don't forget to add your predictions in the comments for your chance to win and your name up in lights in the next episode. Germany put 7 past Curacao, and what is more impressive is that there was 6 different goal scorers, 65% possession, 3.9 XG compared to the 0.3 of Curacao. They still conceded, Germany. Maybe on another day they wouldn't have. Just 2 shots on target for Curacao. And for the Ivory Coast, they got a late winner in what was a pretty even game. We can see the average pressure throughout the game just being edged by the Ivory Coast. Plenty of shots scattered about the game. The thing is with Ecuador, as we covered on that first video, they are very, very good defensively. It takes a lot to break them down, and it was Diallo who we had on for a shot on target, but he was on the bench, so it was void. I'm thinking about it again. I've got 2 selections for this game, and I will get to them in a moment. But first, let's just take a look at the data for this game. As I say, it was pretty even, 15 shots to 12. The possession was really neck and neck as well, 52% to 48%. But Ivory Coast got that all-important goal, which sets them up nicely to qualify either in 2nd or 3rd place. But this is going to be a tricky game against Germany. Now, an interesting stat about Germany, they have not won their first 2 World Cup games since they hosted in 2006. Bonkers. Are they about to change that trend today? I would expect that they will, but crazier things in this tournament have happened. Ivory Coast have never reached the knockout stage and have never kept back-to-back World Cup clean sheets, and of course they kept one in the previous game. So what's going to happen in this game? Let us all know in the comments. Now then, the odds for this game interest me a little bit because 1.57 is a good foundation for a potential bet builder that you might put together. But it's a little bit higher than I thought it would be because Germany were really, really good, and Ivory Coast are a good team as well. But I do think if Germany can play to those levels again, then they can breeze past the Ivory Coast. Famous last words, of course. But I guess it depends how sharp you think they are, how good you think they are. After that 7-1 performance, you've got to take into account the opposition that they were playing as well. I'll also just show you BTTS here. This has dropped in the last 24 hours. When I was doing my initial research for this video, it was at 1.8. It is now 1.7. And get this, Germany has failed to keep a clean sheet in their last 7 World Cup games since the 2014 final. So jumping back to the player section of our World Cup hub, link in the description if you want to check this out. We're looking at the national team form, so you can actually look at their form for the national teams rather than the form coming into the competition. So, for example, the player that I'm going to look at here is Verde. In his games for Germany, he has had a shot in 9 of his last 10 appearances. Same with Musiala. We can see at the top here, Undav, 100%. He is a good goal scorer. Usually starts from the bench. We'll have probably Havertz, Sane, Musiala and Verde as the sort of 4 at the top end of the pitch. It's not bad, is it? And at the bottom of this list, we see Amad Diallo, 8 of his last 10 appearances for Ivory Coast. He has had at least 1 shot. We had him on in the previous game, and I was disappointed that he didn't start and then came on to score. I'm going to go with him again, but we have 2 selections for the Germany game. So let's take a look at the first. So my first selection for the Germany game is a player double at just over 3s. Florian Wirtz, I love watching him for Germany. Feels like a different player sometimes compared to his form at Liverpool. Maybe Iriola will get the best out of him next season. But for him to have a shot on target coming off that left, Havertz bringing him into the game many times against Curacao, and you would expect it to happen in this one as well. I do favour Germany in this game. Let me know what you're thinking in the comments. And Amad Diallo expected to start. Hopefully he will after his heroics in the final game. And my second selection is a German victory. A couple of cards at least for the Ivory Coast and over 2 goals. This one very may well end BTTS, but I am not as confident in that. Yes, we saw the trend with Germany conceding in every World Cup game since 2014. But this game, I think, will see a winner, and I think it will be Germany. If they do concede, they're the kind of team that can go on and score 3-4 goals. But my scoreline prediction for this one is actually 3-0 to Germany. Let me know what you're on in the comments for your chance to win and your name up in lights in the next episode. Now for Ecuador against Curacao, and Curacao did score against Germany. Can they do the same against Ecuador? Ecuador, as we saw in our initial preview of them, absolutely fantastic defensive record coming into this competition. They have an elite world-class defense, no doubt about that. And our tips section here, link in the description. It uses OddAlerts AI, brings all the data together and gives you actionable insights. Ecuador have been tight recently, 0.6 goals conceded per game, over 3.5 goals in 0 out of 10 recently. There is a 59 place gap in the FIFA World Rankings between these two teams, which could mean a more controlled matchup. Curacao obviously does concede quite a lot of goals quite often. It says here 6 out of 10 have gone over 3.5 in recent games. So we will take a quick look at Ecuador's recent results. We did so in the previous episode where we first featured Ecuador, but we're just going to show you again in case you missed that episode, because they come into the World Cup in fine defensive form. They're not the best goal scoring team, but they have avoided defeat or beaten Argentina, Paraguay, Brazil, Chile. They beat Bolivia 4-0. Uruguay again avoiding defeat. They lost 1-0 to Brazil. They drew with Argentina as well. They are a very well set up team, and defensively so sound. But can they get the goals against Curacao? Our probability model is suggesting a goal. It is also suggesting quite highly under 4.5 goals and under 3.5 goals at 76%. So here's my prediction for this one. I know many of you will not like the unders here, but I do think there's a good chance it comes in. Curacao, the first thing they will want to do after conceding 7 is make sure it does not happen again. And if they thought scoring against Germany was hard, Ecuador has an elite defense, as we have just seen. They are set up to defend. And as we mentioned in that preview video, it's not really a great way to go through tournaments because you still need to be able to score. They're not the best goal-scoring team, but you would expect them to get a couple against Curacao, who are going to be sat back, defending for their lives. So Ecuador to break them down, of course, and win the game and get a goal in the second half. This one is 2.2. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments. What would you change? What would you add to this? Do you find betting on the under as repulsive as some other people do? There is serious value, by the way, in betting on the under. Maybe not at a major international tournament, but certainly when you are value betting, based on our probability model on OddAlerts, you can absolutely find profitable systems. And my scoreline prediction for this game is 2-0. 2-0 to Ecuador. Nice and easy job, professional job, in and out. Get the win, get the points on the board for Ecuador. No goals conceded. You get the idea. But what do you think? Let me know your predictions in the comments for your chance to win and your name up in lights. Next up, Tunisia against Japan, and Tunisia have just appointed Hervé Renard, who was the Saudi Arabia manager in 2022 when they beat Argentina, of course. And they must win, or they are as good as out. Japan, of course, came back fighting twice against the Netherlands to earn a point. And looking at Tunisia, it seems that defensive solidity against their local teams, the teams that they play during qualifying, did not translate to better opposition. They've lost to Austria, they've lost to Belgium and Sweden, conceding 11 goals and scoring just once. The odds for a Japanese victory around 1.6 with some bookmakers. I think that's not too bad, to be honest. Now for this, we are going to look at Japan on our football form guide, and we can see where they rank across the last 10 games compared to all other World Cup teams. So in terms of games lost, they've lost once in their last 10 games. Goals scored, they are 11th. They've scored 26. Goals against, just 5 conceded. 2 of those came in the previous game. They had kept, I think it was 5 or 6 clean sheets in a row coming into this competition. We can see there, goals against per 90, just 0.5. BTTS, just 3 out of 10. That ranks them 34th. 6 clean sheets in their last 10. That is putting them 8th. They've been winning at half time in 6 out of 10 games. They've not been losing at half time in any of the last 10 games. That is an interesting stat. Now, in terms of total yellow cards, the discipline is real for Japan. They have seen 18 total cards in the last 10 games. That ranks them 47th out of 48 teams. In terms of the cards received, there's only one team that's better than them, and I imagine it is Spain. 47th out of 48. Again, they've received 6 yellow cards in their last 10 games. A link to this tool is also available in the description if you want to check it out. As you can see, there are so many metrics that you can rank all teams for. Teams with the most shots, 8 out of 10. But of course, we've got to remember the teams that they play in qualifying. Now, I do have a couple of selections again for this game. The first is here. This is a bit of a higher odds one based on the data. I think it also leans into the fact that they've got a new manager. They were pummeled in the first game, similar to Curacao, but we know Tunisia have got the ability to sort of sit back and defend well, and this manager coming in certainly has good pedigree in getting his team set up well. That's why they went for him straight away. He has proven it at tournaments before. He's managed quite a few different international teams, so he's got great experience. So for that first 45 minutes, they will not want to concede as they did against Sweden. They will not want to be as open as that. So for it to be a draw at half time, as we saw, Japan have not been losing in any of their last 10 competitive games. And Tunisia to get the most cards, we know the Japanese have incredible discipline. And there's also an interesting thing to look at, which I'm going to cover specifically in another video. And it is the fair play rankings. Just know, the more cards you get, if you're level on goals and goal difference with teams in your group, it goes on to, eventually, the fair play ranking. So the number of cards that teams get may impact where they finish and if they qualify. And my second prediction for this game is here. Result to be Japan. I cannot really see past them getting 3 points here. I think they've got a very, very good squad. and certainly enough about them to beat Tunisia, who will be set up much better in this game, as we've already mentioned. Most goals to be scored in the second half, again, leans into that data that we saw, and also the situation for Tunisia in that they have a new coach incoming and will want to do everything opposite of what they did against Sweden. And my score prediction for this one, I am torn really between 2-1 and 2-0. I'm going to go with 2-1 to Japan, a late consolation goal for Tunisia. But what about you? What do you think will happen in this game? What would you change? What are you on for this game? What is your score prediction? Get it in the comments for your chance to win and your name up in lights in the next episode. So before we take a look at tomorrow's fixtures, before we preview tomorrow's fixtures, we're going to take a quick look at the official predictions game on OddAlerts. We're going to take a look at my predictions, and then we're also going to see the leaderboard to see if we have a new leader. Netherlands against Sweden, I've gone with BTTS just as I did in my scoreline prediction. And then Germany against Ivory Coast, 59% of you, and I am one of them, have gone for the Germany win, and that will get us 1.79 points should it land. For Ecuador, I think many people, 75% of you, are going for Ecuador. A return of 2 points, that is not bad, really. That is 3 points, if you know what I mean. For the Japan game, I'm going with over 1.5 goals. That'll get me a return of 2 points. And now taking a look at the leaderboard, we have Hoi still at the top with a 2-point lead now. Well done to you. Let's see how you did. You had the USA to win, which they did. You had BTTS Scotland Morocco. They did not. You've also got BTTS in Turkey Paraguay. And as we record this, Paraguay are winning 1-0. Brazil over 2.5 goals did land at 2.14 as well. So just a reminder, if you are in this top 10, you will be receiving real world prizes, including a share of £1,000. So keep predicting. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's lineup. It starts with Spain against Saudi Arabia. Spain again 1.13. They drew their opening game. Really surprising result. Probably the shock of the tournament so far. Then we have Belgium against Iran. Both teams looking to get their first win. It's a surprise that we are saying that given the first games that they played. 1.5 for Belgium to beat Iran. Iran could only manage a draw themselves, couldn't they, with New Zealand. And then Uruguay against Cape Verde and New Zealand against Egypt wraps up tomorrow's video. So if you're enjoying the content, please do hit like and subscribe, and don't forget to put your predictions in the comments. I'll see you in tomorrow's video, 7 AM sharp.